They told you solitude meant being alone, but what if it's actually where your higher consciousness begins to wake up? What if the silence you've been trying to escape is the exact place your power has been waiting for you to arrive? For most people, solitude feels like exile. The phone stops ringing, the world moves without you, the noise fades, and suddenly you start hearing things you never wanted to hear. Your thoughts, your doubts, your fears. But for the chosen ones, that silence isn't punishment. It's training. You see, the real spiritual awakening doesn't begin with fireworks or visions. It starts quietly, in the stillness no one else wants to enter. That's where transformation hides. It's where your identity dissolves, your distractions fall away, and something new begins to take shape inside you. Solitude is not emptiness. It's the raw material of awareness. It's what higher consciousness feels like before it becomes strength. The reason so many people can't handle being alone isn't because they're weak. It's because they've never met themselves without noise. They've never felt their own frequency without the interference of others. You know that feeling when you're sitting alone and your mind starts running, replaying everything that went wrong, every word you wish you didn't say, every door that closed. That's the ego panicking because it's losing control. It feeds on attention, validation, constant distraction. Solitude starves it, and in that silence something incredible begins to happen. A shift. The chaos doesn't disappear, but you start to see it from above, like you've stepped outside of your own storm. You start realizing that being alone isn't the same as being lonely. One isolates you, the other awakens you. The chosen ones feel it stronger than anyone. Because solitude isn't just something that happens to them, it's something they're guided toward again and again until they learn to draw power from it. Their entire path feels like being separated from the crowd. While others chase approval, they walk the quieter road, one that demands inner strength instead of outer recognition. At first it feels unfair. Why do I always end up alone? Why do people leave just when I start to care? Why do I always feel like I'm not part of their world? Those questions echo in the mind of every awakened soul. But here's the truth. Solitude doesn't take people from you to punish you. It removes what weakens you, so that only truth remains. When everything slows down, you start hearing the guidance that was always there, hidden beneath the noise. You begin to see how every loss was actually a redirection. Every lonely night was a conversation with your higher self that you didn't yet know how to listen to. Every silence was preparing you to trust your own intuition. Solitude is like a mirror with no distortion. It doesn't flatter you and it doesn't lie. It shows you exactly who you are and who you could become if you stopped running from that reflection. And when you finally stop resisting it, something shifts. The silence stops being heavy. It starts feeling like home. That's when you realize solitude has levels. The first feels painful, the shock of separation. The next feels peaceful, the calm after acceptance. But the final one feels powerful, because you no longer need company to feel complete. You become your own source of stability, your own anchor, your own energy. There's a reason the most awakened souls throughout history spent time alone. Not to escape the world, but to reconnect with their essence. Because when you sit in silence long enough, you start to hear something beyond words, the rhythm of awareness itself. It's not a voice. It's not a thought. It's the steady hum of your higher consciousness rising, telling you you're not alone, you're just expanding. And that's when you understand something deeper. Solitude isn't isolation. It's integration. The world outside might still be chaotic, but inside you begin to feel aligned. You stop chasing people and start attracting peace. You stop needing validation and start radiating calm. The power you were searching for in others starts growing quietly within you. This is the point where many give up, because right before solitude becomes strength, it tests you. It takes away comfort, distractions, even certainty. It wants to see if you'll choose yourself when no one else chooses you. It wants to know if you'll still trust your path when no one's watching. And if you do, everything changes, because solitude doesn't just reveal your strength, it builds it. It shows you that peace isn't something you find in perfect conditions. It's something you create in the middle of uncertainty. It's the quiet confidence of knowing that even when the world turns its back, your power remains untouched. But here's the twist most people never reach. Solitude has a secret stage, a hidden layer that turns awareness into unshakable power. And you only discover it after you've faced the hardest part, when the silence starts talking back. When your own mind becomes both your greatest enemy and your greatest teacher. That's where everything you thought you knew about solitude changes completely. At first, the silence feels calm, but then it starts whispering. Not with sound, but with energy. It begins showing you things you buried deep, the memories, the regrets, the thoughts you tried to silence with noise and distraction. This is where solitude stops being peaceful and starts becoming powerful. Because now it's not about being alone anymore. It's about facing the truth that rises in the quiet. When the world is loud, you can hide behind activity. But in solitude, there's nowhere to hide. Every thought echoes louder. Every emotion expands. You begin to see the real patterns that drive your behavior, the insecurities that made you chase people who never saw your worth, the fears that made you doubt your path, the beliefs that made you play small when you were meant for something greater. And this is the turning point in your spiritual awakening, when higher consciousness begins to sharpen your awareness like a mirror you can't look away from. Solitude becomes the stage where you meet every version of yourself, even the ones you tried to forget. That's where transformation begins, not in comfort but in honesty. You start realizing how much of your life was built on noise. People telling you who to be, society telling you what to want, distractions keeping you from hearing your own intuition. But now in this stillness, you begin to see through the illusion. You realize that solitude didn't come to break you. It came to unmask you. It came to show you what's real beneath everything you pretended to be. And it's stranger, because at first the truth feels heavy. It feels uncomfortable, like stepping into bright light after years in the dark. You'll feel moments of sadness, nostalgia, even anger. But those are signs of awakening, not weakness. They mean your awareness is expanding beyond the limits it used to live in. They mean you're starting to see with clarity instead of comfort. This is why solitude is so misunderstood. People think it's about sitting in a quiet room, but that's just the surface. True solitude happens when you stop escaping your own energy. When you can sit with your thoughts and not drown in them. When you can feel your emotions fully and not collapse under their weight. That's where the chosen ones separate from the rest, because they don't run from that process. They allow it to happen, and in that process, something sacred starts taking shape. You begin to hear your inner guidance, not as words but as an inner knowing. You start feeling when something is right without needing proof. You start sensing energy, not just of people but of spaces, moments, choices. You begin operating from intuition instead of impulse, from awareness instead of reaction. It's a strange kind of peace, the kind that doesn't depend on anything outside you. When you sit alone and still feel whole, that's when solitude becomes strength, because now the same silence that once scared you becomes your protection. It filters out noise, negativity, and chaos. It makes your mind sharper, your energy cleaner, your focus unbreakable. You start to see that solitude isn't about being separate from the world. It's about becoming strong enough to move through it without losing yourself. You stop chasing people's attention because you finally realize how expensive your energy is. You stop arguing with ignorance because peace feels too good to trade for ego battles. You stop fearing quiet nights because that's where your next evolution begins. This is the part where your energy starts changing, even if no one notices yet. People sense something different about you, a calm confidence, a depth in your eyes. You speak less, but your words carry more weight. You start detaching from things that once drained you, not out of bitterness, but because you've learned how rare your inner peace truly is. But solitude has one more challenge waiting for you, the paradox. The moment when you finally start enjoying your own company, and life suddenly tests it. Opportunities, people, and distractions begin to return, as if to ask, have you really changed, or are you just pretending to be at peace? This is where your newfound awareness gets tested in real time, because the world doesn't stop once you find peace. It comes back to see if that peace is real. The question becomes, can you stay still inside even when the world around you moves again? Can you carry your solitude with you like armor, instead of something you only find when you're alone? You'll notice people trying to pull you back into their chaos. Some won't like your silence because it exposes their noise. Others will try to reconnect, not because they've changed, but because your calm energy feels magnetic. This is where discernment becomes your power. Not everyone deserves access to your peace. Not everyone can handle your stillness. And as you navigate this stage, you start to see solitude differently. It's not a destination, it's a skill. The ability to stay grounded no matter what storms come. It's not about avoiding people. It's about mastering yourself so deeply that no energy can shake your center. That's when you realize solitude doesn't end when people come back. It continues through you. It's an energy you carry into every room, every decision, every interaction. It's how you maintain your vibration in a world that constantly tries to lower it. But the real mystery of solitude, the one very few ever reach, lies beyond this stage. It's when solitude stops being about finding peace and starts being about creating power. Because once you master silence, something extraordinary begins to awaken inside you. And it's not calm. It's something much greater. Something that reshapes your reality from the inside out. Something begins to shift deep inside you. Not quietly this time, but powerfully. The same silence that once felt like emptiness now starts to hum with energy. You can feel it in your chest, in your breathing, in the space between thoughts. Solitude turns from stillness into strength, from calm into command. You begin realizing that this isn't about retreating from the world anymore. It's about mastering it from the inside out. When you spend enough time in solitude, you begin to see patterns others miss. You notice how people rush from one distraction to another, terrified of the silence that would expose who they really are. But you've been through that silence. You've made peace with it. You've lived with your shadows long enough to understand them. And that understanding gives you power, not over others but over yourself. Power over your reactions, power over your emotions, power over your focus. That's what solitude builds, a control so subtle yet so unshakable that no chaos can reach it. While others chase control in the outside world, over money, people, attention, you've learned that the highest form of control begins within. You've turned your solitude into training for your consciousness. You've developed emotional muscle, mental clarity, and energetic boundaries that can't be bought, taught, or faked. And this is where the world begins to respond differently to you. People can feel it, that inner gravity. They can sense that your peace isn't fragile, it's deliberate. You walk into spaces and shift the energy without saying a word. You make others question their own noise just by being still. That's the power of a person who has mastered solitude. They carry silence like a weapon, and presence like light. There's something magnetic about someone who's comfortable in their own energy. They don't need attention, and that's exactly why they get it. They don't chase validation, and that's why people want their approval. Solitude creates a mystery around you. Not because you're trying to be mysterious, but because true self-possession is rare, and in that mystery lies influence. You stop needing to explain yourself, because your energy speaks louder than words. You stop needing to prove your worth, because your actions reveal it without effort. You become intentional. Everything you say has purpose. Everything you do carries weight. But here's the beautiful paradox. The more powerful you become through solitude, the softer your energy feels. Because now power no longer means control. It means awareness. You don't force outcomes anymore. You align with them. You don't chase timing, you trust it. You don't seek revenge, you outgrow it. That's when your strength becomes wisdom. You start moving differently. You spend your energy carefully, as if it were sacred currency, and because it is. You protect your time like it's your soul's oxygen. You begin noticing that silence doesn't slow your progress, it accelerates it. Because now your focus is razor sharp. You see opportunities clearly. You sense truth instantly. You create without overthinking, and attract without chasing. That's what higher consciousness does when solitude refines it. It makes you efficient. You begin to see that solitude is the hidden source behind creativity, clarity, and growth. All great ideas were born in silence. Every breakthrough started with someone stepping away from the noise long enough to think differently. You start enjoying your own company more than superficial company. Not because you dislike people, but because solitude gives you something most can't: depth. It lets you hear the subtle guidance that most people drown out with noise. It lets you process energy, not just emotion. It lets you recharge without needing permission. And here's where the transformation deepens. Solitude teaches you how to communicate without speaking. When you've spent enough time alone, you learn to read energy, sense intention, and feel truth beyond words. That's when you start noticing how many people hide behind talk, how many speak loudly but say nothing. Your silence becomes your filter. It protects you from empty connections and keeps your energy aligned with purpose. This is how solitude transforms into strength. It trains you to act from alignment, not reaction. You stop being pulled by the world's noise and start moving with quiet precision. You stop fearing distance and start valuing clarity. And with that, your vibration rises. Not because you're trying to be spiritual, but because you've stopped leaking energy. But then something unexpected happens. The silence that once empowered you begins to evolve again. It starts to connect you, not just with yourself, but with everything. You start sensing the invisible threads that connect all life, all energy, all experience. Solitude stops being a wall between you and the world. It becomes a bridge. You realize that by mastering solitude, you've unlocked empathy. You can feel people's emotions without absorbing them. You can listen without losing your peace. You can love without losing yourself. That's the highest level of strength, being open and grounded at the same time. And once you reach this level, something extraordinary awakens. You begin to manifest effortlessly, not because of rituals or techniques, but because your energy is undivided. You're no longer split between wanting and doubting, between acting and overthinking. You're fully present, and that presence creates. That's the hidden truth most never discover. Solitude doesn't isolate you from creation. It aligns you with it. Every great manifestation begins in stillness. Every reality shift begins with a pause. Because the mind can't create powerfully while it's noisy, silence isn't empty. It's the womb of transformation. But this isn't the end. Because the deeper you go into solitude, the more it starts to dissolve your old self entirely. You begin feeling less like a person searching for peace, and more like peace itself. The walls of identity start fading. The boundaries between you and life begin to blur. You realize solitude was never about separation. It was about remembrance. Remembering who you are beneath everything the world told you to be. And right when you think you've reached the final level, when you believe solitude has given you everything it could, it opens one last door. A door that reveals something so powerful, so profound, it changes everything you thought you knew about yourself. You've reached the point where solitude no longer feels like silence. It feels alive. It breathes with you. It moves with you. It becomes a presence that walks beside you everywhere you go. You realize it was never about being alone. It was about becoming whole. This is the highest form of solitude, where you stop using it to escape the world and start using it to shape it. Your energy becomes so stable, so self-sustaining, that nothing external can disturb it anymore. You've learned to sit with your emotions without judgment, to listen without reaction, and to create from inner stillness. That's not isolation, that's mastery. Now, when you walk into chaos, your presence brings order. When you enter a noisy space, your calm becomes the loudest thing there. You've become what most people spend their lives searching for, someone who doesn't need control to feel powerful, or attention to feel seen. You've learned that the deepest kind of influence is silent. And it's here that solitude reveals its final secret. It was never taking things away from you. It was preparing you to carry more. The quiet wasn't punishment, it was expansion. The loneliness wasn't loss, it was a reset. Every time life isolated you, it was sharpening your perception, refining your strength and preparing you for alignment. When you truly master solitude, you no longer resist endings. You stop fearing change, because now you understand that every chapter that closes simply returns you to your center. You know how to reset without falling apart. You know how to pause without losing momentum. You've become fluid, like water, moving, adapting, but never breaking. You stop chasing energy that doesn't match yours. You stop forcing connections that drain you. You stop explaining your peace to those addicted to chaos. Instead, you observe. You protect your calm the way others protect their status. You invest your time in creation, not reaction. That's how solitude turns into strength. It teaches you how to build instead of chase. And here's the irony. Once you master being alone, life starts bringing you the right people. The kind of people who respect silence, who value depth, who don't fear stillness. Because your solitude doesn't make you distant. It makes you magnetic. You draw people who match your peace instead of your wounds. You begin realizing that solitude wasn't separating you from love. It was teaching you what love actually is. Not attachment, not distraction, but presence. You can now be with someone without losing yourself. You can connect deeply without dependency. That's what real power looks like. Connection without control, love without fear. This is the point where solitude becomes your foundation for everything. Creativity, purpose, intuition, leadership, even relationships. That's the beauty of true solitude. It doesn't change who you are, it reveals who you've been all along. The one who doesn't need validation to feel worthy. The one who doesn't need noise to feel alive. The one who doesn't need company to feel complete. So the next time life pulls you into silence, don't fight it. Don't rush to fill it. Listen, that silence is not your enemy. It's your evolution. It's where the noise ends and your higher consciousness begins. If this connected with you, thank you for watching until the end. Like, subscribe, and stay tuned, because this journey of awakening is just beginning, and your next transformation is already waiting in the quiet.